All right, you degenerates, huddle up because we're about to get into some real spicy shit today. You know those mature audiences only warnings? Well, buckle up, Buttercup, because this deep dive is going to earn that rating. We're going deep into the bowels of the Honkai Star Rail Reddit, and let me tell you, those motherfuckers are pissed. Like, really, really pissed.
Oh yeah, the honeymoon's definitely over. Seems like Hoyoverse stepped on a cosmic landmine with this new simulated universe thing.
Yeah, Unknowable Domain. That's the expansion's name. And from the looks of this Reddit thread you sent me, it's a total dumpster fire of rage. So for those of you blessedly ignorant souls who haven't experienced the simulated universe, it's this roguelike mode where you go through these randomized encounters, build up your team, get some crazy buffs called blessings, and basically try not to die. The previous expansions they released, like Swarm Disaster and Golden Gears, those were pretty damn good. I mean, they had unique mechanics, cool little stories sprinkled throughout, and you actually had a decent amount of freedom in how you approached each run.
The best part was the strategic thinking. Seriously, you actually had to plan your team composition. Think about which blessings you wanted to pick up. Hell, even the map mattered. You had to navigate that shit and choose your battles.
Yeah, there was a real sense of, like, ownership over your choices.
Totally.
It was engaging, it was challenging.
And it felt rewarding as hell when you finally beat a tough encounter.
Right. But this new expansion, Unknowable Domain, it's like they took everything good about the simulated universe, tossed it in a blender with a gallon of prune juice, and hit the liquefy button.
And then set that blender on fire just for good measure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the biggest complaint, the one that seems to have everyone losing their goddamn minds, your characters are basically useless.
It's the worst kind of irony, isn't it? A gacha game where the whole point is to collect and build up your favorite characters. And then they release an update that renders them completely irrelevant.
It's like, hey, remember all that time and money you spent getting Sealy to max level?
Yeah. Fuck that noise. She's basically a potted plant now. It's a real slap in the face to the players who've invested heavily in their rosters.
And trust me, this isn't just some fringe group of whiny babies. This Reddit thread is overflowing with complaints.
Like, look at this comment from Crater Blue. They were a huge fan of the Galactic Baseballer event, which this expansion is supposedly based on.
Yeah, the baseball one was actually pretty fun. It had this cool weapon-fusing mechanic that made you think about your loadout in a totally different way.
Exactly, and Crater Blue is basically saying that Hoyoverse took that fun mechanic and threw it out with bathwater.
More like they threw it in a dumpster fire, doused it in gasoline, and then launched it into the sun.
Okay, maybe that's a bit dramatic, but you get the point.
Oh, I get it. These players are pissed. And rightfully so. Like, check out what the original poster, Sammy, said. They called out what they see as a mobile game design philosophy creeping into a more complex game.
Oh, that's a good point. It's like they're sacrificing depth and strategic thinking for quick, shallow gameplay.
Exactly. It's all surface-level flash with no substance.
Like those scepters they introduced. Supposedly, they're the big new thing.
Yeah, these powerful items that do all the damage. Your characters are basically just there to activate them.
But the way you upgrade those scepters, it's mind-numbingly boring.
Yeah, you just collect these components to make them slightly stronger. And the gold components, which are supposed to be the rarest and most powerful,
they're just marginally better versions of the regular ones.
there's no sense of excitement, no unique effects, no, hell yeah, I finally got the upgrade I needed moment.
It's like they looked at the gold blessings in the regular simulated universe, which actually had unique and interesting effects, mind you. And they said, nah, let's just make them slightly bigger numbers this time.
It's the laziest form of power creep imaginable.
And don't even get me started on the map exploration.
Oh, got the map. Or should I say, the lack thereof.
It completely gutted it.
No more hexagonal grid, no more dice system, no more strategic decision-making about where to go or which encounters to avoid.
Remember how satisfying it was to map out your route and make those tough choices?
Absolutely. It was like you were actually exploring a strange new world.
But now, it's just a straight line from point A to point B.
Like they're saying, here's a predetermined path, just follow it and don't think too much.
And you know who put it best? Non-nefariousness. 2144. They said they lament the loss of that map exploration, the thing that made the older expansions so engaging.
It's like going from a choose-your-own-adventure book to a boring-ass train ride.
You're just along for the ride, no agency, no freedom.
Yeah, it's a major step backward in terms of player agency and strategic depth.
I mean, you know what else is missing? Diversity.
Oh, yeah, the gameplay. It's like they gave us 4 flavors of bullshit and called it a day.
They have these 4 damage types that feel like lazy extensions of the base game's combat system. Nothing new, nothing exciting.
Remember Golden Gears?
Oh man, Golden Gear.
That expansion had all those different dice that led to, like, dozens of unique playstyles.
It was a combinatorial explosion of awesomeness.
And Divergent Universe. That one introduced entirely new mechanics that completely shook things up.
Those expansions encouraged you to experiment, to find creative ways to use your characters and build unique teams.
But Unknowable Domain.
It's like they took all that potential for creative team building and flushed it down the toilet.
The 4 damage types are so generic.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no real reason to deviate from the same tired meta-team compositions.
It's a missed opportunity, to say the least. They have this incredibly diverse roster of characters with unique abilities and playstyles, but Unknowable Domain completely fails to capitalize on that potential.
It's like they had this gourmet buffet of ingredients, but decided to serve everyone the same bland-ass dish.
Speaking of bland, have you noticed how they basically abandoned the lore in this expansion?
Oh yeah, the story's about as thin as my patience with Hoyoverse right now.
Remember how those older expansions had all those cool little story snippets and lore tidbits sprinkled throughout?
Yeah, those were great. They gave the simulated universe a real sense of depth and mystery.
But here, it's like they said, fuck the lore, just make the numbers go up.
And you know what the worst part is? The thing that really grinds my gears.
What's that?
The fact that Hoyoverse has already proven they can do so much better.
Oh, absolutely.
They've set the bar so high with those previous expansions, and then they come out with this half-assed garbage.
It's like they're deliberately trolling us at this point.
I mean, just look at what Sammy said in their closing statement. They have done better, but just choose not to.
It's a sentiment echoed by a lot of players in the thread.
They're not just criticizing the game, they're expressing a sense of betrayal.
Like they feel lied to, like Hoyoverse promised them something amazing and then pulled a bait and switch.
It's like they're screaming, "We know you can do better, Hoyoverse! Why are you doing this to us? Do you even care about the simulated universe anymore?"
It's a valid question, and it's one that Hoyoverse needs to answer. But hey, before we dive into potential solutions and what we hope to see in future expansions, let's take a quick break and come back for part 2, where we'll explore some of the creative ways players are engaging with Unknowable Domain, despite its flaws.
Oh yeah, there's definitely some interesting stuff going on there. Stay tuned, folks. It's about to get weird.
Welcome back, Trailblazers. You know, after spending that last segment absolutely roasting Unknowable Domain, I gotta say, there are a few, let's call them glimmers of hope in this dumpster fire of an expansion.
Glimmers of hope. More like cockroaches surviving a nuclear apocalypse.
Okay, that's a bit harsh, but I get your point. The thing is, some players are actually finding ways to enjoy this mess, or at least make it less painful.
It's like watching someone try to build a house out of toothpicks and chewing gum. You gotta admire their creativity, even if the end result is kind of wobbly.
The thing that's fascinating to me is that some players are actually leaning into the simplicity of Unknowable Domain and using it as an excuse to experiment with team compositions they'd never normally consider.
You mean those janky-ass teams that would usually get their asses handed to them on a silver platter?
Exactly. You know, the off-meta teams that don't stand a chance in the higher difficulty levels.
But when the Scepters are doing all the heavy lifting, why the hell not? Might as well throw shit at the wall and see what sticks.
And you know what? It actually highlights a really interesting point about game design. Player agency. Even within a system that seems incredibly restrictive, players are finding ways to express themselves and create their own unique experiences.
It's like, screw the meta, I'm going to run a team of all healers and see what happens.
And who knows, maybe those unorthodox strategies will actually lead to some unexpected discoveries.
Or maybe they'll just end up with their faces melted off.
Either way, it's entertaining as hell to watch.
Okay, but let's be real for a second. A lot of players aren't exactly being creative with their team comps. They're just straight up cheesing the system.
Oh yeah, the cheese is strong with this one.
I saw this one comment where a guy was talking about using 2 charged scepters and a speed scepter. Basically turns the game into an auto battler.
That's where the lack of challenge in Unknowable Domain becomes a bit of a double-edged sword.
On the one hand, it allows for those kinds of exploits. And let's be honest, who doesn't love a good exploit?
But on the other hand, it does raise some serious concerns about the long-term engagement of the mode. If players can just cheese their way through it, what's the point of even playing?
It's like, yeah, I beat the system, but at what cost? My sanity, my dignity.
Exactly. It's a hollow victory.
And it brings us back to the core issue here. The disconnect between what players were expecting and what Unknowable Domain actually delivers.
Players were hyped for a complex, challenging, lore-rich expansion.
And what do they get?
A half-baked mobile game-side mode.
It's like ordering a 5-star steak and getting served a microwaved hot dog.
It might fill you up, but it's not what you were craving.
And that disappointment is palpable in this Reddit thread.
Players are frustrated, they're confused, and they're starting to feel a little bit betrayed.
Like Hoyoverse took something they loved and just stomped all over it with steel-toed boots.
But hey, it's not all doom and gloom. Amidst the rage and the salt, there are some genuinely constructive suggestions coming out of this discussion.
Oh yeah, people are actually trying to make lemonade out of these rotten lemons.
Believe it or not, yes. Like, remember that comment about making the scepters more visually distinct?
Oh God, the sectors. They all look like they were designed by a colorblind toddler with a crayon fetish.
Right, and those descriptions, don't even get me started on those walls of text.
Seriously, it's like they hired a drunk astrophysicist to write the item descriptions.
The point is, the scepters need a visual overhaul. We need to be able to tell them apart at a glance. And their effects need to be clear and concise.
Like, this scepter makes you hit harder. The end.
Exactly. No need for a dissertation on quantum mechanics.
Speaking of good ideas, there's been some talk about incorporating a system that lets players fuse scepters together, kind of like the weapon fusing mechanic from the Galactic Baseballer event.
Oh, that's a fantastic idea.
It would add a whole new layer of strategy and customization to Unknowable Domain.
And it would actually make team building fun again.
You could combine scepters to create these crazy hybrids with even more powerful effects.
It would address the concern about characters feeling irrelevant, too.
Yeah, if your scepter choices were directly tied to your team composition, it would create a much more engaging gameplay loop.
So we've got visual improvements, scepter fusion. What else is on the player's wish list?
Well, there's a pretty strong desire for more diverse gameplay mechanics. Those 4 basic damage types are about as exciting as watching paint dry.
Right. We need more variety, more spice, more things that make us go, holy shit, that's awesome.
Remember Golden Gears. That expansion had all those crazy mechanics that really pushed the boundaries of the simulated universe.
We need more of that. Give us branching paths, hidden secrets, challenging puzzles. Hell, bring back the goddamn dice system.
Anything that makes us feel like we're actually playing the game, not just going through the motions.
And let's not forget about the lore. Unknowable Domain completely dropped the ball on that front.
Yeah, the story is about as deep as a kiddie pool.
We need more depth, more intrigue, more connections to the larger world of Honkai Star Rail.
Remember those mind-blowing moments in the previous expansions? Where you'd uncover some crazy secret or have a revelation that completely changed your perspective on the story.
We need more of those holy shit moments.
Give us a reason to care about what's happening in Unknowable Domain.
Make it feel like we're actually exploring a strange and mysterious new world.
And on a more practical note, why the hell can't we use our immersifiers in Unknowable Domain?
You know those things we used to farm for specific relic sets?
It would streamline the whole farming process and make the mode feel more connected to the rest of the game.
It's such a simple, logical solution.
But knowing Hoyoverse, they'll probably find some way to fuck it up.
Okay, let's try to stay optimistic here. The point is, players are coming up with some really great ideas for how to improve Unknowable Domain.
They're putting in the effort, they're being constructive.
Now it's up to Hoyoverse to actually listen.
And that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Will they actually listen to their players and make some of these much-needed changes?
Tune in for part 3, where we'll put on our developer hats, or at least try to, and share our own thoughts on the future of Unknowable Domain, and what we hope to see in future simulated universe expansions.
Well, folks, we've reached the final showdown in our Unknowable Domain saga. We've ripped it apart, we've duct-taped its mangled remains back together, and now it's time to channel our inner game devs and figure out how to save this sinking ship.
Let's be honest, it's going to take more than duct tape to fix this mess.
Probably more like divine intervention at this point. But hey, a little optimism never hurt anyone. So let's pretend, just for a moment, that Hoyoverse actually gives a damn about our collective suffering.
That they're willing to roll up their sleeves and actually fix Unknowable Domain.
What would our brilliant genius-level recommendations be?
Well, first and foremost, they got to address the elephant-sized scepter in the room, the lack of character relevance.
Yeah, if I wanted to play a glorified spreadsheet simulator, I'd just fire up Excel.
The whole appeal of a gacha game is building up your characters, making them strong, making them cool.
Right. It's about forming those emotional bonds, those parasocial relationships with your pixelated waifus and husbandos.
But Unknowable Domain just throws all that out the window.
Your characters are basically just batteries for those overpowered scepters.
And like we discussed earlier, the best solution seems to be a scepter fusion system.
Oh, yeah. Imagine combining a fire scepter with an ice scepter to create some kind of chaotic elemental vortex.
Or fusing a physical scepter with an imaginary scepter to unlock some reality-bending bullshit.
It would make team building so much more dynamic and engaging.
And it would give you a reason to actually care about which characters you bring into Unknowable Domain.
But fusion is just one piece of the puzzle, right?
Yeah.
We need to make the scepters themselves more interactive.
More than just passive damage boosts.
Exactly. Imagine scepters that grant unique buffs, debuffs, or even special abilities you can activate during combat.
Ooh, like a scepter that summons a swarm of nanobots to heal your team.
Or one that creates a temporal distortion, slowing down your enemies.
That would add a whole new level of strategic depth to the combat.
And let's not forget about the visual feedback.
Yeah.
Right now, all those scepters look like they were designed by a committee of colorblind accountants.
We need more visual flair.
Give us flashy animations, unique particle effects, make it clear what the hell each scepter is doing.
And for the love of all that is holy, get rid of those walls of text describing the effects.
Seriously,
Yeah.
nobody wants to read a goddamn novel every time they pick up a new scepter.
Keep it simple, keep it clear, keep it concise.
Now let's talk about something that's been sorely missing from Unknowable Domain. Gameplay diversity.
Ah yes, the four horsemen of the apocalypse. Fire, ice, lightning, and physical.
Thrilling, isn't it?
It's about as exciting as watching grass grow.
We need more variety, more spice, more things that make us go, holy shit, I didn't know you could do that.
Remember Golden Gears? That expansion was a masterclass in gameplay innovation.
Branching paths, hidden secrets, challenging puzzles, unique mechanics that completely changed the way you played the game.
We need more of that.
Bring back the dice system, I don't care. Just give us something that makes Unknowable Domain feel like a truly unique and engaging experience.
And let's not forget about the lore. Unknowable Domain is supposed to be about exploring the unknown.
But the story is so shallow, so predictable, so utterly devoid of mystery.
We need more depth, more intrigue, more connections to the larger world of Honkai, Star Rail,
Remember those moments in the previous expansions where you'd uncover some mind-blowing secret?
or have a revelation that completely changed your understanding of the lore.
Give us more of those holy shit moments.
Make us feel like we're actually uncovering something truly special and unknown.
And finally, let's talk about something that just makes practical sense. Planar farming. Why the hell can't we use our immersifiers in Unknowable Domain?
It would make the mode feel so much more integrated with the rest of the game.
And it would streamline the farming process for those elusive relic sets.
It's a win-win situation.
But knowing Hoyoverse, they'll probably find some way to overcomplicate it.
Or just ignore it entirely.
So there you have it, folks. Our blueprint for Unknowable Domain 2.0.
A vision of a simulated universe mode that's actually fun, engaging, and rewarding.
But will Hoyoverse actually listen to our pleas? Will they rise from their slumber and breathe life back into this dying beast of an expansion?
Only time will tell.
But hey, even if they don't, at least we had fun ripping it to shreds, right?
Absolutely.
This has been The Deep Dive. Signing off. May your pulls be ever lucky and your scepters ever overpowered.